supposed to feel.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to WNS9 Plus. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, of course, we have Ty. What is up, Tyler?
I'm here. And for the record, just so we can get it out of the way, I was not the one late tonight. I was on time.
You weren't early, but you weren't late.
I was here like 8:50.
It's good enough. Oh, no. You're right. You were
I was on way before you were.
Never mind. It's been a while, so I forgot.
Right.
So for those waiting, we appreciate your patience. We always say 9-ish. Usually it's closer to the 9 than the ish. But we are here. We are live. So how's everyone doing tonight? No gym, doing well.
Yeah, we got to the ish. Some people are busy. Like it's off-season baseball and it's the busiest time for them. So hey.
Yeah.
We're here.
That's right. We are here. Speaking of we're here, I guess let's start off with this just to get this done. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball to NHL and UFC. BetOnline is the number one sports betting source for the new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, Ty, big show tonight. How you feeling?
Can we just explain everything to everyone?
Let's
I'm
do
an open book, man. Like let's just tell people what's going on.
Yeah. So tonight, well, I should say today, ZiPS Pirates projections came out. And as we do every single year, we have Dan Szymborski, of course, the creator, the godfather of ZiPS, some might say, on and talk about the Pirates. And of course, like the rest of NL Central and just, talk baseball a little bit. That's what we had planned. And unfortunately, I don't think Dan's going to make it tonight. If he does, maybe he can hop on and, we'll continue. So I apologize. A little bit of an okie doke here. It doesn't seem as if Dan is going to be on. So with that said, Ty, tell us this open book.
No, I mean, like things happen.
Right.
Obviously, Dan has been one of my favorite guests I've ever been around. Like he's a lot of a good time. A lot of good information from him. Like he's a lot more important than I am. So if things happen, they happen. It kind of, again, I want to echo what you said. Like, sorry he wasn't here tonight. We're still going to talk a lot of Pirates baseball, obviously, because that's what we're here for. Sucks he couldn't make it, but hey, I don't doubt that we will get Dan on at some point to discuss some Pirates future projections.
Right. I mean, again, Dan comes on every single year. If it's not going to be tonight, I'm sure he'll come on at some point. We'll have more in depth. But I mean, we're going to talk about ZiPS still. We have some things we want to talk and discuss.
If I can just add, if anybody, whenever we're here, I'm going to give him so much hell for skipping out on us. Oh my God, his life's going to be miserable that night. I'm going to give him so much crap.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, like about us, him being like the favorite guest. I mean, I've always enjoyed Dan. I like his warped sense of humor as well. And like the normal sense of humor. Like in the ZiPS article, he kind of compared the Pirates to Olive Garden. I'm like, that nailed it. That just nailed this team. There's nothing exciting. Nothing exciting. But at the same time, like it's not terrible. It's the staple. It's what you're expecting. Just like an Olive Garden. The breadsticks aren't going to excite you. However, they're there. They're good. They're consistent.
Yeah, I mean, like, so obviously we'll get into a little bit of the ZiPS projections that came out today, but that might actually be a fair type of comparison that the Pirates have to some sort of national chain. They're just, before, I don't even know if they were Olive Garden, but after seeing Dan's ZiPS projections, and obviously he's not here to defend himself, so I'm blaming him for everything I disagree with. Yeah, they're probably close to the Olive Garden this year. Like they're not like they're off the fast food menu. It feels that way, at least.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And in
Analytics.
previous years, this was the CC's Pizza. Very cheap. You're definitely getting what you pay for.
Yeah, but I was satisfied after that. I was not satisfied after the last 5 years.
Wait, what?
I was satisfied after eating CC's Pizza. Not satisfied after the last 5 years watching Pirates baseball.
I forget like who I'm talking here. You know, everyone. I apologize.
Okay.
Like these people and their pizza takes on this brand on this show.
CC's
Outside of
is,
me.
like, solid.
Yeah, CC's would satisfy you. I won't even
was
enter
solid.
CC's Pizza. But I guess the sentiment remains. They're a CC's Pizza. But right now, they're more of the Olive Garden. Like I will go to an Olive Garden. I know what to expect. I'm not coming out of Olive Garden going, "Oh my god, that was just that was so good." But I'm coming out saying, "Like that was, you know what? I'm satisfied. I knew what I was getting into when I walked in there, and I came out getting exactly what that was." And that's kind of like what the Pirates are this year. Like I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I don't think they're going to be a really good team by any means. At least the way they're constructed as of today. They're going to be a team that, much like last year, right? I mean, all in all, last year, like they weren't really a bad team. They had that really, really bad stretch. I get that, and that's what really sent the season off in a whirl. But it wasn't as if they weren't competitive to some level of degree, right? I mean, again, so I'm expecting a little bit of that to be this year, hopefully a bit better than that, right? And as ZiPS kind of shows, they're about to be like a 500 team. So Olive Garden.
Yeah, I mean, like the soup and salad works. Like you can get a little tour of Italy. It excites you every now and then.
Yeah. I miss the old days of Olive Garden, though, I got to say. Like back when we were in high school, where, you know, maybe 7 or 8 of us would go to an Olive Garden, 2 would order entrees, and we would all just eat breadsticks and salads. You know, back when we were like really, really poor. Those were the fun days, and they all ended that. So can't do that anymore.
Like, so you're not going to DoorDash Olive Garden?
No. Technically,
You might
have done that before.
You might.
Yeah.
It's fine. That's basically the line. Are you going to DoorDash it or not? And if you are you in a pinch? Like, if you're DoorDashing Olive Garden, you're probably like, I just want soup, salad, breadsticks, call it a day. Same with like DoorDash and Taco Bell. Like, you don't live on it. It's fine. It entertains you for a short period of time. But you really want that little Italian mom and pop shop that is worth $8 billion that just goes ahead and takes every single customer ever alive. Yeah, I'd love to be able to go there every day, but they're always crowded. So I'm stuck with Olive Garden. Actually, I'm stuck with like frickin' what's the cheapest fast food?
The cheapest?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Taco Bell, I have always assumed, right?
They're still pricey, but like
that's still like compared to in Taco Bell's terms, those are
who still has a dollar menu? That's the place that I am ordering as a Pirates fan.
I don't think anybody. CC's Pizza, is that still like $4.99 for an all-you-can-eat buffet?
Yeah, it was great. Love those days.
Terrible. But either way, go ahead, continue.
No, but in all reality, that's kind of where you're at right now. You're kind of
Olive Garden.
stuck. Like you're not uncomfortable. Like there are still things I like. You know, I enjoy the chicken marsala from Olive Garden. I do.
That's usually one of my go-tos. That or the chicken parmesan.
Would I call the chicken marsala my Paul Skeens? Probably not. Because like if I'm thinking the best of the best, like there's still good stuff there with the Pirates. There's not like anything that's gonna just blow my socks off at Olive Garden.
Yeah.
I love that. I just spent 15 minutes talking about.
This is what happens. See, Dan, this is all your fault. This is why Tyler's going to troll you whenever you do come on,
Oh,
because we're literally just talking about food now. We've turned this from a Pirates podcast, talking about the Pirates projections, to like we're talking about food. And guess what? Guess what? We have Dan on with us. Dan is here. Thank God, Dan saved our show, because we have now spent a good 8 minutes talking about Olive Garden. And it's all your
Oh, yeah. Oh, I did mention Olive Garden a lot in my article, which isn't the worst comparison in the world. I could make a lot more. Sorry, I am late because I was cleaning up garbage that had strewn on my driveway. It seems a raccoon or something got into the trash I put out, and it was later than I thought. And I come back in, and that's 9:25. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Oh, no. I'm supposed to do something at 9 o'clock.
The trash wasn't CC's Pizza, was it?
No, it was just nothing of note. They seem to like the old cans of cat food that had already been scooped out. Hopefully it wasn't a raccoon. I've had one of those in my attic before. They're the worst.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dan, I just spent 10 minutes comparing the Pirates to Olive Garden and CC's Pizza. So thank God you're here.
Yeah, but you got a person who also compared the Pirates to Olive Garden.
Yeah, but you might have.
Well, that's what sparked the whole thing.
Actually,
I
you
did
know
not
what?
mean it in a completely negative way, because there are things to like about those types of restaurants. You're traveling to a new town. You just like, hey, what's good? You can go to some weird, some one thing you don't know, but those chain restaurants, you're not going to get anything amazing, but they tend to have consistent quality. They're actually have a lower rate of being shut down by health departments than single restaurants and family-owned restaurants. See, this is where we're doing restaurant chat now. And me, a complete non-restaurateur, is going to talk about restaurants.
Well, I'm going to throw one at you right now, because you're comparing them to Olive Garden, and you just said there's nothing you're really going to go crazy about. Paul Skeens exists.
Okay, well, that's crazy. Well, that's like the unlimited breadsticks.
Yeah, but we're comparing unlimited breadsticks,
unlimited velocity,
Skeens.
unlimited stuff, unlimited velocity, unlimited upside, unlimited breadsticks.
Fills you up.
You're
left satisfied and filled.
If you add unlimited to most things, it works out pretty well.
Yeah, like if you're comparing Paul Skeens to the unlimited shrimp at Red Lobster, I'll listen. The soup and salad, like we can live without that. It's fine.
Oh, there's
unlimited shrimp at Olive Garden was elite. Don't give me that look, Donardo.
Oh, but the Cheddar Bay biscuits, the Cheddar Bay biscuits at Red Lobster. Imagine unlimited of those.
You know
that
what?
Could be Paul Skeens.
I think it's the Texas Roadhouse rolls. That's
I've only been there once.
Yeah, but you get the cinnamon butter. Like, what are we doing here, Dan?
I don't know. I'm late. I'm discombobulated. So what are we talking about besides Olive Garden? Projections?
Well, we were talking about the 2025 ZiPS projections, which again led me off to say, like, I love the analogy, because I love your sense of humor, and tying it Olive Garden like that actually is pretty much the Pittsburgh Pirates this year. But let's talk about the 2025 ZiPS projections. So, of course, Dan, once again, welcome on. We love having you on. Appreciate you joining us tonight. I guess I just want to start us by saying, the one thing you mentioned here was that more or less, I mean, outside of course, Olive Garden, is that, that they're basically a 500 team. That's the one thing about the Pittsburgh Pirates this year. They seem to be about a 500 team. The one thing that holds them back is there's not a whole lot of, stealing to them. And I guess part of it is I was a little bit shocked that they're kind of hovering around 500. I felt ZiPS might be having them closer to like the 78 win range. So it was nice seeing some of these projections where they stand, like especially right field, also shortstop. But yeah, like tell us a little bit about, you know, what your thoughts are on the 2025 Pirates and, you know, their limitations.
Well, one of the things you look at in the depth chart, I mean, I talked about not a lot of like super excitement past, say, Cruz, but there's nothing super horribly terrible. Most of these players would be one of the best couple on the Chicago White Sox. I mean, you DH is a weakness, but DH is also a weakness for a lot of teams simply because of the way the DH role has been used since it became NL only. It's still largely a rotation / rest spot, and there's still sparingly few star DH types. You have, you know, Ohtani and your Dan Alvarez, then the big drop off generally. Probably forgetting someone, but it's not a position where teams get a ton of production from. I think we had like our average WAR position being like 1.4 or something for a team right now. So that's probably the weakest spot of the team. But the hard part is, do the Pirates actually, if something works out, do they really have the stomach to bench Andrew McCutchen in his, you know, his swan song year? I'm not really sure if they do. But you look at some of the other positions. I mean, ZiPS doesn't care for, you know, Palacios and Wright, doesn't really care for Isaiah Kiner Falefa, but they're not horrible situations. And that's something. You look at some of the bad Pirates teams, and there were some major holes on those teams. I know I compared it a lot to, because I'm old enough to remember the Cam Bonifay, Dave Littlefield years very well. And those were disastrous teams. These Pirates have a pretty high floor. There's a lot of interesting talent. They have a good kind of stable of role player types, which will kind of keep the wheels from coming off the train completely. And the rotation, I think, is legitimately solid. So there are things to like, but, you know, there's also not a huge amount of upside. And in the NL Central, that might not be the biggest deal in the world. ZiPS does see the Pirates with some chance of winning the division. We're not talking 1 in 100. We're talking better than that. But I'd kind of put them around the Reds right now, with the Cubs and the Brewers kind of at the top of the division, and the Cardinals just kind of hanging around in the middle of the two groups.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's fair. You mentioned, you know, the DH spot and Kutch, and I'm with you. I personally don't want to see. You talk about the swan song, you know, and I don't think Kutch is going to be using that way, like you talked about. I mean, they're going to play him. He's Andrew McCutchen. He means a lot to this team and such. But I also think that, like, he's still good, you know. So I'm looking at ZiPS here, and I mean, again, like, I mean, I certainly could see this happening, right? But he was like the 4th best hitter on the Pirates last year. You know, there's certainly an argument that you can bring him back because there's still 5 other guys they got to improve upon to even get to Kutch's part of the lineup to improve on. You know, and like a lot of the stuff that he was doing last year, as far as like StatCast goes, right? The hard hit rate, the contact rate and such is some of the best he's been doing in like 5+ years. So, you know, I do like that the production to me didn't totally match like what he was doing as far as like the underlying numbers. So like I look at this year, like maybe Andrew McCutchen could be still kind of productive to like much of the degree he was last year.
But the question is, what's the upside there? He's not going to pull out, you know, the 2012 to 2015 version of McCutchen. When you say he's the best that he was in the last 5 years, the last 5 years have not been the best. Let's just say he's never been the classic McCutchen. Really, and God, you know, it's been nearly a decade now since he's kind of been the guy,
right? Because
I mean, he was putting together an interesting Hall of Fame portfolio. When you talk about his, you know, when he was in his late 20s. Now, of course, I don't think. I mean, he's pretty far behind some of the meaningful milestones. He's probably not going to get to 2,500 hits. He's probably not going to get to 400 home runs. I'm more confident about that. And the question, of course, is his peak enough? But I mean, that's kind of off topic. But it's just not super ambitious. And when you're a 500 team I think you have to chase that kind of upside when you can. It's just to go back to it. It's a little Olive Garden-y.
So obviously there's questions about Kutch as the Hall of Famer that we all have our own opinions on. But when I look at your ZiPS projections, because I'm crediting you for them, because you obviously punched in the numbers yourself, because that's what you do every time you do them, and you hate the Pirates, obviously. That's why you always project them to be bad.
I hate all the teams.
Yeah,
I only project 2,100 wins a year.
Yeah,
I actually project everyone to go below 500. It's true.
Yeah. So obviously this is a Dan problem, but since I have Dan right here to talk to,
what like Dan problems?
I will say, when you look at this ZiPS projection and compare it to the last maybe 5 years or so, it's night and day, man. Like, I know you say that it's Olive Garden-esque, but I'll take a damn Olive Garden over a McDonald's every day of my life.
Oh, and but what about whoa. Egg McMuffin? I mean,
breakfast time?
Egg McMuffins are great.
Yeah, you know what? The only people up to eat an Egg McMuffin are crazy people.
Well, they did have all-day breakfast for a while, which was wonderful.
Yeah, they did.
Because I'm not usually awake that far before 10:30, as embarrassing as that is. I wanted a McMuffin.
You're not helping the bloggers out.
Sorry, see, I haven't really. I kind of skipped dinner, so you got me on food. So now I'm just thinking of an Egg McMuffin now.
But in all reality, though, when you look at your ZiPS projections, there's a lot more production out there, I think, in this round rather than the last 5 rounds, which obviously it should be.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you have actual competent major leaguers across the diamond.
The rotation improvement is a big deal. You look at Skeens. I mean, there were, of course, a million reasons to like him going into last year, but there is some uncertainty with any minor league pitcher without a lot of professional experience. But after the season he had, there are a lot fewer questions about him. So you pretty much just being conservative and factoring in the risk of a pitcher being injured, which is very high for anybody. That's still 3-4 wins added to the Pirates right there, just off the top, just on the top of the table there. And that really changes the complexion, because all of a sudden your 75, 76 win team is suddenly a 79, 80, 81 win team. And that's, a pretty big deal. And when you look at the Pirates projections farther down the rotation, there's also ZiPS has, from 2024, has a great deal more confidence in Jared Jones as well, who is a really solid pitcher and made really good progress in 2024. So those are two big parts that have kind of pushed the Pirates from kind of that 75, 76 win projection, which they've kind of been around most years. I'd have to actually double check what they've been at, but I'm pretty sure they've been between like 74 and 79 and most of the projected wins for the last probably 5 or 6 years. But now they're looking at a 500 team. And when you're a 500 team, all of a sudden each additional win becomes so much more valuable. Going from 81 to 82 wins is a lot bigger deal when you're talking about your upside and your chances of making a wild card spot than when you're adding a win to a 75 win team. Now the Pirates aren't a super aggressive team, obviously, in terms of investment. I mean, even the A's are kind of spending more than them. Yeah. Even if it's kind of out of pressure from arbitration and legal things. But it's a sunnier projection than in recent years, and I do kind of agree with that.
Donardo, Dan just showed up on our show 20 minutes late and told us that the A's are spending more money than the Pirates.
Kick them off.
But
the A's are worse. The A's are a lot worse. They're still going to get like a 71 win projection or something.
What do you think Steamer's projecting?
I don't know. I don't think he actually does. Well, I mean, right now you can actually kind of look at the projected WAR, because ZiPS isn't incorporated in that. So right now it's just Steamer. So anything that's up there on Fangraphs now, you could blame Jared Cross from Steamer. That's not ZiPS's fault. But
I might like his projections more.
I don't know. let me look real quick to see how many WAR he has. Now, we tend to be a little optimistic with the playing time. If you add up the WAR on our depth charts, we're over 1,000 WAR. Generally speaking, there's kind of a bias towards making healthy players a little too healthy. You see like a lot of healthy starters with like 670 plate appearances as their default, which isn't the case. So everyone's like a little above average right now. Steamer actually has the Pirates at a 1.1 wins below the A's. So I don't think you like the Steamer projections.
You know what? ZiPS sounds really good right now.
Well, and I'll say this, like I talked about earlier, how I was a little bit shocked of how good, if you want to use that, how Olive Garden-esque the Pirates were going to be with ZiPS. Because like all that was out, previously was, of course, like Steamers. And we've used that to kind of compare when you were coming out with the Cubs and the Brewers and the Reds, like, we kind of use the Steamers and what they're projecting for players to kind of, show them. And they weren't really too optimistic on the Pirates at all. So yeah, I mean, I guess with you saying that they're projecting the A's more, I'm not too shocked on that base of what we were seeing out of their projections by the players there.
And they really don't like the Brewers either. They have the Brewers as pretty far down behind the Cardinals, like behind the kind of in the middle. So Steamer doesn't like them, but I guess that's a little off topic. Although I'm noticing right now that Steamer actually has the Rockies worse than the White Sox. That's kind of depressing for the Rockies.
Yeah. But either way, yeah, we don't need to go down that route so much. I guess let me just ask the question I think everyone's wanting to know as well. Right field stands out because that's one thing we've been talking about, I feel like, every single day since, before the offseason started. What the hell is going to happen in right field for next year? Because Jack Swinsky had one of the worst years we've ever seen. We've seen some really bad years. Like Brian De La Cruz certainly wasn't the answer, and he's not coming back. Like what's going to happen? They got to sign someone, and they haven't done that yet. So, like, there's Joshua Palacios there. There's maybe Billy Cook. There's hopefully maybe Jack Swinsky, but you're not banking on him. And it seems like ZiPS is pretty high in what we're thinking of, like in our terms, pretty high in Jack Swinsky. So, maybe talk to us about that and help out these Pirates fans, because 1.5 WAR in right field is, I think, 3.5 more WAR than they had all of last year.
I think Swinsky does have some upside, and ZiPS seems to think that. I think the best solution for right field that's likely to happen, because I don't really think chasing the third and fourth tier dregs on the free agent market to give him, 1 year, $8 million deals. I mean, you want to see the Pirates spend money, but I don't really see that as all that productive. At that point, you say, well, if I'm just going to sign Grichuk, I mean, I might as well just see what Sawinski could do. I guess, I don't know. I think one of the problems is I'm not actually sure what the organization thinks of Henry Davis at this point, if anything at all. Because there is a scenario where he hits well in the minors, gets another chance, plays right field okay enough to be in a timeshare with Sawinski if he comes back. All of a sudden, that looks like an interesting timeshare if you have some optimistic vibes going around you. I think that's kind of probably the more promising scenario, but it's hard to see what they're going to do. I just don't know where they are at with Davis or really Sawinski, I think.
But in all reality, though, what was it? 1.4? Was that the right field projection?
1.5. Yeah.
1.5. Okay. But I mean, in all reality, when you look at Palacios and Sawinski, you probably should get around that production from them. Like Palacios, not a huge Josh Palacios guy, but like he could probably put up a 1-win season. He's fine enough. Is that good enough to get you where you want to be? No, but there's enough to get 1.5. It's better than it was in 2020, people.
But it needs to.
I know.
Like, that shouldn't be the bar.
I'm trying.
Again, like that, you're being better than the 2025 White Sox isn't like some benchmark that we should be patting our backs on.
I think that, like, say you could tell the Pirates you can get 1.5 WAR guaranteed, or you could get a coin flip for 3 WAR or 0 WAR. I think the Pirates would take the guaranteed 1.5 WAR, but I think for an 81 win team, I think you want to take that coin flip. And if something doesn't work out, it doesn't look like you're going to get that 3-win season, then you try something else. You try the next coin flip. I mean, it's fine to get 1.5 WAR when the rest of the team is solid, but I don't think that the Pirates are close enough right now to the wild card race. I mean, yeah, in upside scenarios they can, but I don't think they're close enough where they can really just give away because, half a win here, half a win there. All of a sudden you're talking about a serious number of wins that could get you into like serious playoff contention. So you could do that, but you're just kind of limiting your upside. And I think the upside should be the Pirates' friend right now.
I'm just saying, like 1.5 win out right field's not bad.
Like, that's why I said Olive Garden.
Yeah, but and to go back to what you said about the 81 win team and being a coin flip, I think here's where I would question is that I think they're an 81 win team if right field is a 1.5 win type of situation. If you have right field not go so well, or you have first base not go so well, we're easily talking about another like 72 win team. So that's where if 81 wins is kind of a media or like the middle ground of where we're looking at, I'll roll with Palacios. If that's the upside, I think that's where you take the coin flip. I think it's more of the way you're looking at it.
Okay, well then I would twist it. I would put the question the other way. Let's say you want to make the Pirates an 85 win team and an 81 win team. What do you do to this roster right now, realistically, to add those 4 wins? And that's the hard part. That's why I'm talking about trying to add. Okay, you can raise your hand. I'm not the host.
There, I have $10.
Okay, so we need let's see if we call $9 million for a win in free agency. So we need to raise $35,999,990.
But
does that even get you breadsticks and salad? $10? I don't think it does it?
Nothing. $10 doesn't buy you that much anymore.
Wow.
Once when
I mean, again, like that's kind of like the situation. I think that's why there's so much frustration with Pirates fans. It's because they're right there. It's much like last year. Like going into last year, you looked at this roster. Now, of course, there was more hope because you felt like a Henry Davis was going to potentially be, something. Jackson Quincy came off that year and probably not going to have the same year he had, but he's still a right fielder. He's an everyday guy, so I think there was some hope, but it's like, you're so close. If you could just add some true investment into this team. And again, like here we are a year later, it's the same thing, but Paul Skeens is here now. And Jared Jones turned to this guy that I think a lot of us, didn't anticipate this happening for. So, I think it's some similarities and some differences, but all in all, it's like, they're just so close. And that's what's frustrating is we're talking about a 500 team. And all they've done is spend $8 million in free agency. They brought Andrew McCutchen back, so it's no different from last year, and they added Caleb Ferguson.
And the thing is, I mean, you have from a salary standpoint, when you talk about payroll, ignoring like signing bonuses from the draft and whatever, you essentially have Skeens and Jones for free right now. If you signed a pitcher to a 1-year, $12 million contract in free agency, and they pitched like Skeens did, you'd be really happy with it. But he's not making that $12 million. So pretend you did, and now you have $12 million. That's how money works, right?
Sure.
I thought we just continue to like decrease payroll as we are supposedly getting better.
Well, that's been the plan, but it's not ideal. And I feel you guys, because remember, I'm an Orioles fan, and the Angelos kids had some really cheap actions, we'll just call them. I was trying to think of not including a curse word. So I do kind of feel the team's pain because you're kind of at this part now where you're starting to look at Rutschman going in a few years and Henderson getting an extra year from the rookie of the year. And you start to see that team kind of disappearing, even with the new ownership. So I totally get the feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like sticking to the lineup side, we'll get to the pitching. And yes, John, I see we're going to ask about Bubba because I want to ask about Bubba too. So trust me, we will. But again, like some things that stood out to me, and I have some questions and want to pick your brain on defensively. Now, of course, we know how good Brian Hayes is defensively. Look at defensive, like the number of the metric. Think of him at 9, right? As far as like the best defenders on this team, and I guess technically he's on the team. Michael A. Taylor. I know you still haven't listed, on the podcast who it was last year, but as far as like projections, the best defenders are Brian Hayes, Michael A. Taylor, and Billy Cook. And again, that's something that stood out. I want to talk about here a little bit because there's one thing that was really impressive about Billy Cook. We know he has some raw power there, but he's 25 years old. I mean, you're familiar with them, Orioles, right? That trade came over. But like he looked really good defensively last year, and that's something that the Pirates haven't had in the outfield for some time either. So seeing defensively, he's up there as far as the name of Michael A. Taylor and Brian Hayes. What stands out? And I also want to ask you too, how much is that leverage between right field and first base?
Well, obviously at first base, there's limited potential to really get. There's only so much great defense is going to get you at first base. Billy Cook, I mean, I don't know how to describe this, but he's faster than you think he is. That's kind of a weird way to put it, but I'm not sure a better way to put it.
He's sneaky fast.
He's
that
sneaky
New
fast.
England receiver deceptive speed.
Yeah, he's got the deceptive coach's kid.
He's like
Jim
I'm
Rat.
gonna date myself because you see, all my player analogies come from when I was like 15. So I compare everyone to guys from like 1988 to like 1995. And I think Kevin McReynolds, no one really thought of Kevin McReynolds as fast, but he could stink a lot of stolen bases from you. I mean, did he have like 27 straight or something crazy at one time? I don't remember, but we'll save that for the 80s Mets podcast. But he does seem to be a pretty well-rounded player, and the ZiPS defensive projections are purely statistical. ZiPS uses a coordinate-based system. I have the location of every hit ball in the minor leagues. And then in AAA, of course, you have StatCast, which is even better. So you could actually kind of wring some more from the numbers. But he came out as a solid defender, and there were other Pirates that came out pretty well, but Cook was one of the ones that got the biggest benefit from there. So he is interesting. And the question is, what is his power upside? I think that kind of determines how they're going to use him, because he hasn't put up crazy home run numbers in the minors, which you kind of want to see from a guy who, when you talk about power. But he's also, he's not that young. He's 26, and generally speaking, power hitters have developed their power by this point. And if he's a 15 to 20 home run hitter instead of maybe something even more, it's not super exciting at first base. But I do think that he could play a part in this team. And I don't think they're going to use him in the infield, but he could probably fake it. They had Steve Pierce fake it in Baltimore a few times, and it's been more recent for Cook than it was for Pierce. I just like creativity, and I think that if the team's creative, they could probably find a lot of use for these guys and maybe ring out an extra win and a half.
So speaking of first base there, I actually looked into it. This is the highest that ZiPS has projected the Pirates first base since 2020.
Oh, geez.
Josh Bell was projected at 2.9 in 2020, which was the COVID year. This is by far the highest it has been projected. So speaking of Billy Cook there, is it projecting him a lot at first base, or is it giving him more value because he might play the outfield a lot more?
Well, it projects him. I don't like to project players as a mix of positions simply because it's not very transparent. I instruct ZiPS, my new system, ZiPS, because I don't know the name of my projection system after 20 years. ZiPS, I instruct the player to project at their most frequent recent position, just so people have context to look from, because they can say, oh, this is Billy Cook's projection as a first baseman, not some mystery combination of positions, which makes it a little trickier. I want ZiPS generally to be interpretable by people using it. So sometimes simpler solutions like that, I think, are more effective than just having to guess about what is under the covers that ZiPS is talking about. So it is an interesting projection. ZiPS likes Spencer Horwitz a lot and thinks that he should be the starting first baseman. But I think there's enough questions on this team to find, you don't have to choose one or the other. And I think that if the team gets in a position that they have to choose to play Horwitz or play Cook, I think that kind of reflects poorly on some of the decisions they've made.
Can I just say, though, I know ZiPS likes Spencer Horwitz a lot. I love the projection, and it might be silly of me, but Doug Mankiewicz as a projection for Spencer Horwitz, that one didn't click in my brain, and I saw that next to his name. I'm like, I love that. I don't know if the hit tool is going to be there like it was for Mankiewicz during his peak. I don't think that.
Well, Mankiewicz also played when batting averages were a lot higher.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Horwitz is not going to be a 300 hitter.
No.
But
it's 280 the new 300.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, you know what? I could see that. I could see that, Dan. I like that. Good math there.
But that's another one. So again, like going into how ZiPS kind of seem favorable on a lot of things, like Spencer Horwitz, 2.6 WAR. You know, we've been seeing, and this isn't alone, not to make the comparison, but you know, we saw Steamers come out and we had that, the trade was, you know, recent, and then you're looking at projections like, well, they're projecting Spencer Horwitz to not be so bad. And now here's ZiPS, like another thing that's coming out and saying like, hey, you know, this Spencer Horwitz guy, maybe this trade wasn't so bad. And I know I'm in a wait and see mode. I didn't love the trade, but this shows him to be the second best offensive player on the team. And like, if that's going to happen, I will take it.
And ZiPS likes him a lot better than it liked Ortiz. That's just what it comes down to. I think just going back to Cook for a second, I generally think that teams should spend spring training doing crazy stuff. I mean, get everyone back, but you have a month and a half, and players aren't sitting home eating Doritos. They don't have the Dan Winter diet in most cases. They're going to driveline mechanics. They're honing things. There was that year that the Brewers were playing Ryan Braun at shortstop in spring training a few times. And that was a stupid idea, but it was good stupid, because if he looked non-horrible out there, all of a sudden you have an interesting tool you could use. And teams had that kind of thing. I think I would spend spring training playing Billy Cook at second base, because he has played there in the minors before, just to see how he fares. Because it doesn't matter if you mess up defense into the spring. I mean, does he really need to practice playing a corner outfield spot or first base that much? He's a good defensive player. So I would do crazy things like that. Play him in center field some. Just make tactical tools that you can kind of just get more out of the roster. Because the Dodgers do that kind of thing. Moving Bellinger to center field all those years ago, taking your first baseman and moving him to center, that's really outside the box. And when those things work out, they're just a huge boon to your team, because all of a sudden you have a new asset that you did not know you had before.
So I agree with you. Like, those things are really valuable. I think, like, moving Mookie Betts to shortstop, there's obviously value being able to do that. The difference is that Cody Bellinger and Mookie Betts could hit. We don't know if Billy Cook can hit. So I'm of the opinion that let's watch this guy actually hit a baseball in spring training and find out if he can play Major League Baseball before we just start throwing him everywhere.
He could do both.
Can he?
Well, I guess we're all side with Dan here. It's also different because like Billy Cook has played in the past. So it's like the Mookie thing. Like, it's not also like a position where like he's just not, it's totally foreign to him, but he is a good defender. And like to your point, I'm not worried about can Billy Cook play defense in right field and first base. So like, yeah, like try put him back at second. Not even trying, put him back at second. The center field thing is actually one I have not even entertained, but that's always been a question mark with me, is like, who's behind O'Neal Cruz for center field? Like, when he has to get a day off, who the hell's playing center field? Outside of like Jack Sawinski, if he's good enough to be on this team, you know? So maybe Billy Cook is something you entertain there.
I mean, there's always the question mark, and then the underpants gnomes are profit. So
I just want to find guys that can hit a baseball. And also, you did mention second base there, and it seems like ZiPS is relatively high on Nick Gonzalez.
Yeah,
I think my plan is to try to get rid of Kiner Falefa as a starter. That's my secret, like long-term devious.
You're
plan.
back in. We're back
come
in,
on.
baby. We're back in.
let's cook, Dan.
Not Billy though.
Oh no, I would be more. If I'm going to be crazy, that's a little less crazy to try someone at second base and shortstop because you don't have the deep throws. And yeah, he does have a strong arm, but that's an extra complication when you're moving someone to shortstop. But I don't know. I think that if you could get just a Horwitz, Cook, Gonzalez, Hayes infield, I think that might actually could be a decent infield. But it's interesting. And see, I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of jaded by covering the sport for a few years, but I just like to search for the interesting things, trying things, the experimental things. So I tend to have less of a stomach for kind of that middle bland road than a lot of teams do. And from their perspective, they're spending, $100 million on payroll. I'm not. I don't have $100 million. I mean, technically, I don't think my Amex has a limit, but I think they would probably say something like, Dan, we from your credit, from your salary that you've filed, we're not going to approve $100 million.
Well, Tyler spot you 10.
Yeah, I already gave you $10.
Okay, well, we can put it as down payment.
Yeah, that's like
We're getting closer.
Me and you could go to CC's and have lunch. I think it was like
I've never been to a CC's. I've heard the name before, and I'm in Ohio, and they are near me. I've seen one before, but I just don't like. Maybe it's a
bad
snob,
pizza.
like chain. Okay, I don't like bad pizza, but I just am a real snob about chain pizza.
Dan, you have won my heart. Thank you. Finally, someone on this show that gets through. I can get this through too. Yes. Dan.
There's only one cheap chain pizza that I like. I like the Little Caesars Detroit style pizza, well done so that the sides are crispy.
He's talking about Little Caesars, and you're just going to let it happen.
But that's the only one, and that's admittedly bad pizza, but that's a very satisfying bad pizza.
But like all pizza's bad. Like most pizza's bad. Most that you're going to have is not great.
Well,
it's always fine.
But you're going to CC's. You become an expert at CC's. That's why you don't like pizza that much.
Yeah, but you know what we could do? We could have lunch together for my $10 bill in my pocket.
I'm sure we can find something better to do with $10.
Well, you could probably get 2 Detroit style pizzas.
But at Olive Garden, the breadsticks are there. They're just sitting there. I don't even. You could just get an appetizer, and I'll just sit there and fill up on breadsticks and some water or some soda, depending on how much your appetizer is.
Yeah, I mean, like we got to play.
Olive Garden wins again.
It's a buffet. We can do whatever we want. Yeah, but you can go to Olive Garden and get the tour of Italy.
The best $10 deal was. We're really getting off topic, but that's what happens when you have me on. I'm a very undisciplined guest. I think this is one of those reasons why I think that ESPN didn't really use me on TV that much, like very rarely, because there's no way to keep me on any topic. But the best $10. Well, there were two things. One, this sports bar in near Baltimore, it's gone now. But on Monday Night Football and Super Bowl Sunday, they used to have $9.99 all you can eat buffalo wings for the whole day. So we would sit there, eat 60 or 70 wings over the day, drink an absurd amount of beer, and just pay $10 for the wings.
Nice.
I think it was more than 10, but do you guys remember the sports chain Damon's?
Yes. Oh my God, I forgot all about that. Yeah.
On Monday Night Football, they had all you could eat ribs.
Yep.
Oh, and it was only a little more than 10.
I remember the ribs. Yeah.
So you could bring your 10 and I could bring 5, and then
boom. It's a date.
We're in, baby.
Yeah. I'm inviting you to these defunct chain restaurants. So first we're going to build a time machine, and then we're going to use a time machine to go to a chain restaurant. That's the use of a time machine.
We'll get dessert at Arthur Treacher's or wherever else is closed.
Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips.
Yep. I don't know if they had dessert, but
Do they still exist?
there were 4 the last I looked, and I don't think they exist anymore. I think COVID killed them.
Oh,
Sad.
Well, let's hop on that time machine. Let's go back to September. Cruz gets told probably 3 minutes before game time that we're going to move you to center field. So Cruz now a center fielder. He's played, again, a little less than a month, but he's played center field now. He's going to this year as a center fielder. So I think there's a lot of things that people are interested in as well. Now, you can talk a little bit about the offense, what he is. 114 weighted runs created plus. I mean, that sounds about right. I think he could be more than that, but that's fair. That's fine. But 2.9 WAR. How does O'Neal Cruz grade out? Like, how does ZiPS transfer him to center field? Like, what's this really accounting for? How's that happen? And I'm also kind of curious, what's he like as a shortstop for next year, if you can do that?
Well, generally speaking, when a player doesn't have a lot of experience at a position, ZiPS has to kind of has to see what other performance implies. Like a guy who hasn't played second base before, you can learn a lot about how he's likely to do by how he played at shortstop. It's a little trickier when you're talking infield, outfield conversions. While there is kind of a correlation between, good shortstops become good center fielders, ZiPS actually uses speed metrics. A speedier, competent infielder tends to be a better outfielder than a slower, competent infielder. Like Cal Ripken Jr. was a far better defensive shortstop than O'Neal Cruz. I think we can agree with that, hopefully, at least in amity. But
Yes.
I think that Cal Ripken Jr. would have been a pretty awful center fielder. I can't imagine him having the speed to cover the position. So generally speaking, Cruz does have the speed to ably cover the position. I mean, yeah, he's a pretty big dude, but Aaron Judge was a pretty big dude, and he actually wasn't terrible in center. I still don't know how that happened. That's still the weirdest thing ever. That he's. I mean, it's like saying Shaquille O'Neal and saying, "Oh, he's a Chinese trapeze artist." It's like, no, that's it. It's not the body type. ZiPS thinks he'll be a competent outfielder. It still docks him a couple runs simply because he's so inexperienced there, and so there's a lot of uncertainty. But I think he does have some upside there. I'm not saying I'm kind of neutral on the position change. I'm not really sure it made the most sense given the organization of the Pirates. It's just, if you had a really good idea at shortstop, maybe you like him in center, but I'm not sure that. Let me say, I'm clearly sure that the Pirates don't have a very creative idea at shortstop. Let's just say.
Yeah. We were all on the same page when the move got made to center field. I think we were all very much questioning it. Maybe gotten a little bit more I maybe comfortable with the move that they made with him. And I do wonder, at least Dan, that you see these projections all the time. Do you think, and I'm sure you don't have the numbers in front of you to just like punch them in, but do you think the upside's better in center field or better at shortstop? Because in all reality, like at shortstop, he was always going to be a negative win type of guy defensively.
Yeah, I think it is a possibility that the upside is higher in center. It's simply a position where range is a bigger deal. I think there is a chance he's a positive defensive center fielder. If it's necessarily the best utilization of resources, because you can't argue maybe him being a mediocre shortstop's better, because who was a mediocre shortstop? Derek Jeter, and he was a net plus for the Yankees for a very long time. I don't know. It's just, as you guys said, I just kind of feel weird how it happened, because it just sort of was something they talked about it like we crunched it. We carefully evaluated this decision and then surreptitiously decided to do it one morning, which is kind of a weird thing to do. I mean, I sometimes make decisions that way. Like the last car I bought, I pretty much decided like in 10 minutes to buy a car, because I had just put my car. This was during This was like kind of towards the end of COVID. My car was 3 years old, and I just kind of put it in the Carfax checker just to see what they priced it as, and they offered me as much as I had paid for it 3 years before. So that's how I make decisions. I don't think the Pirates should necessarily make decisions that way.
Damn, we made the same exact decision.
Oh, you also sold your car during COVID?
I literally went on Carfax, or not Carfax, Carvana.
Carvana, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah, I jumped on Carvana. They're like, yeah, we'll pay you more than you owe on it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's like that's a good deal.
I'll take my truck now, thank you.
Yeah, I get my money back for a 3-year for a car I've driven for 3 years. That's a good deal. And I even got a better interest rate on the loan.
I'm back on Dan's side now.
I like my car because it's smaller than the previous one, and so people are less likely to have me, transport shit for them. Whoop.
Yeah,
and back to the Cruz thing and the switch to center field. Like our biggest gripe was you don't move Cruz off of short, and it's not. I mean, it's not because we were just gung ho that he is an absolute great shortstop. There's certainly reasons that there's plays he can make that others can't that benefits him. There's a lot of errors he made and such, but I think the biggest thing was who are you replacing him with? Like if you move him off of a shortstop, who are you replacing him with? So when the move happened, we were kind of thinking like, let's forward think of this. Like if they're making the move now, maybe it's potentially because they see like, you know what, center field is gonna be a harder position to upgrade next year with a free agent crop or whatnot. We feel better that we can upgrade it at short. So it's like maybe they're making this move now because they're anticipating how they're going to maneuver this upcoming year. So that's what we're kind of expecting. What we weren't really expecting was IKF was going to be the starting shortstop. And it seems like that's going to be the case. So I think what's coming here is like the trade-off is instead of having Cruz at short and someone else playing center field, it's Cruz at center and IKF at short. And we feel like, well, that's probably putting IKF in like the worst possible situation that you could put him in to get all the benefits that he provides. So yeah, like looking at IKF, he's a 1-WAR shortstop. What I'm interested in, and I think there's a question in the chat here too, and I'm not sure if you can really rattle this off the top of your head right now, but where does he rank opposed to like other everyday shortstops?
Pretty low down. I could actually move that. While I'm doing it, it almost feels like there's like bait and switch potential with Kiner. Like you could have bobblehead night and just trick people. Like we're having a bobblehead night for Kiner. Falefa.
Yes.
Like just say the last part really quietly. Okay. I've actually been opening it like while we've been doing this. So I was filibustering with a dad joke, which is about par for the course. Okay. Sure. Let's see. Shortstop. Okay. Sing a song to myself. Let's see how far we have to go down to get to him.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you're not.
Oh boy.
You're not helping us here.
Yeah, it's pretty far. I'm just.
And are we just talking like production in general?
Yeah, WAR overall.
Okay, we're not even just talking about defensively, because I think defensively is really where we're like, obviously offensively, I don't think anyone imagines he does what he did last year, which he didn't do with the Pirates, but he did have a productive offensive year. Defensively, he's not a shortstop.
Okay, it's hard to say offhand about over starters because ZiPS isn't super. I just say ZiPS isn't super excited about him and sees a number of backups as better starters than him. So there are multiple players available at positions like ZiPS thinks Ryan Bliss is a better shortstop than Kiner Falefa overall, and Cole Young of the Mariners, and
Kevin Newman and Cole Tucker and
Nick Allen, and
actually,
I'm going
Kevin Newman
ranked above him. Can you just tell us that right now?
Pardon?
Is Kevin Newman ranked above him?
Oh, let's see. Kevin Newman is. Oh, don't give me who he's comped to. Poor Josh Kasevich. Sorry, it found someone who had Kevin Newman as their top comp. Let's see. Oh no, Kevin Newman's only projected for 0.3 WAR.
Oh, okay.
75 OPS plus. A
Feel
worse
a bit better
hitter than,
about that.
a worse hitter than kind of Falefa too.
Okay.
We've risen above the bar of Kevin Newman, so at least we got that. But again, that kind of speaks to, again, like I think, well, the fears are with this is like, IKF, I like the trade because he can play all over the diamond. The bat's good enough, good contact skills. He's like your low key, just utility guy. Fill him in somewhere. As your full-time shortstop, I'm worried on that. So yeah. So again, like ZiPS not too kind on IKF this year.
Yeah, ZiPS is. It hasn't been kind, and if you want to see people not be kind, ask Yankees fans how they feel about his defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they did put him in like his one position he's not great at.
You want to know something troubling? If I rate them both solely as shortstops per 600 plate appearances, ZiPS actually likes Liover Peguero slightly more than Falefa.
There you go.
This got dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
So let's switch this up a little bit. It's still kind of dark. It's the Pirates, right? Sticking to the offense, we'll get to the pitching here quite soon. Henry Davis is a name. It's been a name. He's not even listed on like your depth chart, for catcher. But when you look at here, Henry Davis, 101 OPS plus. The WAR 1.3. So I mean, this is something that we've been kind of worrying about. Like, who is Henry Davis? What's going to happen? What's going to happen with him and ZiPS? I mean, like at this point in time, I will take that from Henry Davis.
I'm as I said, I have no idea. I mean, a lot of times I talk with people with teams enough to get kind of a gist of what they think about someone. Obviously, I can't get a straight answer from anyone for anything because at the end of the day, I'm still media. And even though I don't really report rumors, teams don't want to tell me that stuff. But I have no idea what the Pirates think about Henry Davis. You guys probably have a better idea than I do. I'm not even sure the Pirates know what to do with him. I think he's kind of off the depth chart from now. Just they're hoping that he's either super awesome in the minors and forces a way into the roster, or it's just terrible and they can just kind of memory hole him like Keston Hiura of the Brewers a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what they have in him right now.
I think you hit it there when you said you don't know if you know, or if the Pirates know what they have with Henry Davis, because we don't know either. Even going in the spring last year, it was he's going to play right field. No, he's not. Now he's going to catch all the time. And then all of a sudden he's catching every day. And at the end of the day, he's just got to hit a baseball. If he can't hit, he's not going to play.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anything we've projected or you've projected or anyone's projected shows he might hit a baseball.
Oopsie projections were a little more optimistic.
Yeah. What's the 80 grade scale on Henry Davis?
Maybe it's like an emoji. He's like sandwich. I don't know the follow-up. I kind of was thinking about an analogy, but I kind of lost it. So that's just it. He's just on a 2080 scale overall. He's a club sandwich.
But if you, I mean, a club
could
sandwich
be good.
solid.
Could be bad.
I'd take a club sandwich every day. Actually, you know what? I like that. Love me a good club sandwich.
Yeah, I really should have eaten before coming on.
Yeah.
Little applewood smoked bacon on top.
Mm.
Remove the lettuce and tomato because nobody wants that part. Get a little Hellman's mayo with it.
I like tomatoes.
Yeah, well, you also like a lot of people on the ZiPS list.
No, I hate everyone. We went over this.
You know what you might like? Sorry, Denard, I'm going to cut you off. You know what he likes? Cabbage. Because Trey Cabbage was compared to Al Martin, which I thought was absurd.
I saw that.
Absurd.
So you were talking about cabbage, and I was just thinking, kimchi. I want some kimchi.
I was thinking of Permani's coleslaw.
Which now leads me to Kim, who should be the shortstop for the Pirates, by the way. Yeah. So offensively, anything else stand out or you want to ask about, Tyler? before we move on to pitchers?
Got to go around the diamond. No, I don't think so. Most of it was, I think, a little bit optimistic, but I like optimism right now. Give me some hope. Thank you, Dan, for giving me a slight bit of hope.
And some cabbage. Okay, well then let's move on to the pitchers. So let's just start with the guy, like Paul Skeens, our dude, Paul Skeens. Where does he rank as far as starting pitchers? Throw it at you as well. I am interested. Is he the best starter as far as WAR goes? Where does he rank?
It depends on what innings you use. ZiPS coming out of the box is just a little more skeptical about his innings than other top starters. I think at the top 10 starters, he has the fewest innings projected at 155. Because ZiPS, I mean, it kind of does fine for guys who have established jobs. Obviously, ZiPS doesn't know how minor leaguers are going to be used. But from a rate standpoint, ZiPS has him better than several of the pitchers above him with more WAR. Logan Webb and Logan Gilbert are projected with more WAR, but with lower ERA pluses than Skeens does. So you could say, depending on how you define it, that ZiPS is projecting him to be a top 5 pitcher. ZiPS has Skubal as the best again, followed by Snell. You could probably call Skeens number 3 in ZiPS.
Okay. Yeah, cool to know. Okay, I mean, first thing that stood out too, 155 innings. You would assume he's probably gonna get more than that, but I understand the projections, right? But you would hope he's gonna get more than 155 this year. I mean, the reins are off. Go out there and win us some ball games. So yeah, I was kind of curious of that. 3.24 ERA. He's not going to replicate last year. I mean, I think not. I'm not going to want to tell him that. Maybe he will.
I mean, we said that about Jacob deGrom, that he can't maintain that level. And
yeah,
he couldn't stay healthy, but he stayed at that level for quite a while.
So maybe Paul can. And again, I'm not going to bet against Paul. Maybe we'll have a sub-2 ERA once again this year. But yeah, I was interested to know about like where he lines up as far as everyone else, as far as starting pitchers. So that's cool. That's cool to know.
I mean, you should be a believer in a pitcher with enough confidence to have a full 70s mustache at 22.
Yes.
I got nothing more other than just to add on to the Moneyball mantra of what's his girlfriend look like? That's a guy.
Well, then why does Bubba Chandler not have a good girlfriend? Because I'm asking for the chat. Why does ZiPS hate Bubba Chandler? Baseball America comes out today, number 7 prospect in baseball. I mean, we had, Sarah's on last year talk about Stuff Plus, and he was just raving about Bubba Chandler. I've been such a believer this year in Bubba. Why does ZiPS hate Bubba Chandler? I'm sorry. Why do you, Dan Szymborski, hate Bubba Chandler?
Nailed it.
ZiPS just really wants another season to make sure like the walks stay off, because he did have problems this coming really 2022, 2023. He has, he has the stuff that you like to see, but he was pretty raw coming in, and that's improved a lot. But ZiPS isn't going to go all in on a picture with only, 6, what do they have? 6 starts in AAA, 7, 8, something like that. It's just uncertainty, and there's a lot of bad things that happen to pitchers between the minors and the majors. So it'll be like Jones. If he keeps it together this year, maintains his gains, his projection will shoot up really quickly last year. You can even put Skeens in that category. Skeens had a pretty good projection for a guy just coming out of college, but it's a much better projection this year. The thing is, when you look at projections, people say projections are conservative, but that's because reality is cruel. And if you're not conservative, you're going to miss high as on a group on players overall, even star players. One of the things I like to tell people, it's not directly, it's Chandler adjacent more than Chandler direct, but people always get mad like when ZiPS projects a rookie to be worse the following year. And I noted that if you take guys who had 4-win seasons under age 25, more than 2/3 of them were worse the following season by an average of like 2.5 WAR. It's just steps forward in baseball tend to have steps back because just their whether you call it selection bias, whether you call it regression toward the mean, whether you call it Madden curse or Wheaties curse. There's just a lot of things that happen between a player breaking out and a player succeeding in the majors. So, I mean, it's a projection. So it could be high, but it could be low too. I've had a lot of times where I think that this projection was really wrong in one direction, and it turned out to be in the opposite direction.
Yeah, so just looking back at this, last year it looks like ZiPS projected Jared Jones at 3.89 WAR. I think Bubba Chandler's at 4.5. I think it's a similar sort of path. Do you see anything that's really causing the Bubba Chandler other than the inexperience?
I think one, it's the walks. Also, ZiPS does see his home run rate in the minors as a little less than you would expect from some of the hit ball data. ZiPS actually thinks, because home runs is a really freaky stat for pitchers, that it's a terrible stat. One of the things I talk about home run percentage, home run per 9, however you go about it, is that that home runs are a bad stat for pitchers because xFIP works. xFIP is a really stupid stat. For people who aren't familiar with xFIP is basically just FIP if you assume the pitcher allowed a league average number of home runs. And that's kind of a stupid idea, but it works because home runs are such a crap stat for pitchers. They tend to cause you to think too much or too little of a pitcher in the short term. And you look at Chandler, and he allowed very few home runs in a good home run environment. It was like 8 or 9 something home runs in the minors all last year, and you expect more than that. And so there is some regression toward the mean there, let's just say.
I hate everything you just said, Dan, but I'm just going to let this show continue to move on. But I just want to throw on the record that xFIP sucks.
Hey, I said it was a stupid stat.
It
just works because it's slightly less stupid than home run rate.
Some guys really suck at not throwing bad pitches.
But what happens in the short term is people will glop onto that, because I heard that a lot about Corbin Burns after 2019. People said, how can you project him as being a major leaguer? Because no major leaguer would allow 18 home runs in 45 innings. And you say, well, actually,
okay,
because everyone loves the word actually.
Maybe we can find some middle ground here, Dan. Are we talking about in the minor leagues or in the major leagues? Because I feel like once you're in the major leagues, xFIP kind of gets irrelevant.
xFIP is predictive in the major leagues better than FIP is, which is just a statement on home run.
Nope, I think you're wrong.
When they get to the major leagues, you'll do a lot better with exit velocity data than using actual home runs allowed. We're kind of working on other things because we're doing discussions about recalibrating WAR a bit over at Fangraphs. Not dramatically, but there are some changes that I've been pushing for, like making DH equal to first base, and so on and so forth. Yeah, yes, sir. You were raising your hand.
Oh, if I can add in, I the only thing in my life I need to do is to tell somebody who has any slight sort of say in the Fangraphs war. I completely hate the fact that Fangraphs uses FIP to calculate pitcher WAR. I don't care. I know all the arguments. I've heard them all, but my God, the ERA is the actual indicative stat, or at least runs allowed.
But you see,
they gave up the runs, not this little made up number we have here.
But here's the problem. Here's the crux of the issue. So you can't just say you heard it all and then have me and pose the query. The thing is, the team allowed the runs. The ER is just how we designed it, how we assigned it. And the question is, do you want to over describe or under describe? Because that's baseball reference WAR versus Fangraphs WAR. Fangraphs under describes, baseball reference over describes. We only assigned the pitcher the run because someone decided that it was the pitcher's fault, not because of any actual event that happened. When you flip a coin, it comes up heads or tails. But if you flip a coin, who do you assign the blame for the heads or tails to? Is it you? Is it the thumb? Is it the environment? Is it the coin?
Nope. Don't like this argument already. Because when I'm flipping a coin, it's a complete game of chance. When I am pitching a baseball, I have control over it.
But you have some control over it. The other people have a lot more control over it than you do.
When you compare it to flipping a coin, you have no control over that.
No, but we're talking about degrees rather than types. You could have just as easily said at the dawn of baseball that when a run was allowed, you charge it half to the pitcher, half to any defensive player who was involved in that play. It was just, and it would be here this day, and it would have the same validity to it just because someone decided to assign it. And at the end of the day, when you assign a team stat, which is runs allowed, to an individual player, you are making a decision on who to assign it for, not a methodological necessity that demands it.
I just want to add my 2 cents. I love that Fangraphs uses FIP and Baseball Reference. I love the nuance on it because I can get what I want depending on who I get it from.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it helps with every
argument. It can tell my side of the story however I want to use it for. But no, in all honestly, though, I mean, I'm not as deep on Tyler because I think it takes away. I mean, a pitcher that's in PNC Park and a pitcher that's in Yankee Stadium, like some of those home runs aren't going to home runs. So all things are fair. You know what I mean? Like it's the circumstances I'm in. So again, I think it just gets to what you're trying to get at. But at either rate, back to ZiPS.
maybe we just figure out a way to use the actual stat assigned to giving up runs.
Well, a guy who had given up some home runs because he strikes out quite a few guys, but he's prone to the long ball and prone to giving up that hard hit. Jared Jones, I'll say going back to him, 3.89 ERA this year, basically about I lost it. It was like a 2.5 WAR player almost. Yeah, like again, pretty good projection there because he fell off towards the second part of the season. He came on start of the year and everyone was talking about him, and Jared Jones was the talk of MLB. As Pirates fans, we don't really get to experience that. And it was followed up by Paul Skeen. So what the hell is going on in Pittsburgh? But second half of the year kind of fell off. Seems like ZiPS feels like, no, that was pretty solid at the beginning part of the year. That's kind of who Jared Jones is. So, yeah, thoughts on that?
Yeah, people take first half, second half stats way too seriously. They can tell you something, but very specific things, such as a sudden change in a player's, say, contact rate. That tends to be relevant. But most things, it doesn't really matter if it's the first half or the second half of the season, even for young players. So that's what usually happens. There have been some Andrew Benintendi truthers. They exist. It's something I've discovered. It's kind of the baseball equivalent of Rule 34. If someone's thought of it, someone's yelled at me about it. That since Andrew Benintendi had a good second half of the season, that he was a good bounce back candidate. And it actually doesn't really help projections at all to know the first half or second half stats. And then you tell people, Andrew Benintendi had a good second half and he only got up to, a 93 WRC plus. So that tells you how bad he was in the first half of the season. And he probably shouldn't have even gotten a chance to play in the second half because he should have been playing golf all summer.
So Rowdy Tellez.
Yeah. I am so unhappy. I mean, I didn't think it was likely, and his projections always stunk, but I really wanted the Rowdy Tellez dream to come true. Between him and Dan Vogelbuck. Well, you can't blame me. It didn't not come true because of me. I don't have that amount of power.
Yeah, well, he was basically like McDonald's, and you ordered Olive Garden. Thanks, Dan.
I'm not quite sure what that meant, but sure.
He stunk.
No, you see, I'm thinking of the Egg McMuffin again. See, we're going back to McDonald's.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I keep bringing up food references.
But don't get the steak and egg breakfast thing because that's
It's
just
great.
a hamburger. Oh, it's too greasy to eat.
You
got
gotta
to
get it on the bagel.
A hamburger on a bagel is just weird.
It's a kind of a steak kind of deal.
Yeah, but you put cream cheese in bagel. You put cream cheese and you put some lox on the bagel.
Or
Maybe
another
some
move I've
capers.
learned: you put it on the McGriddle.
McGriddle's
It works on a McGriddle, and then you got to sub out the egg because you can't have that fold over egg. You got to have the round egg. You got to sub that out for the round egg, and then you're good.
Now my girlfriend puts two very horrifying things on bagels. One more horrifying than the other. The first one is she puts Marmite on bagels, which isn't horrifying, but for those who have a Marmite, it's like yeast spread, salty. It's like eating like salt. But she also puts sriracha on bagels. Just eats a bagel with sriracha. Like any bagel, a cinnamon bagel with sriracha.
I mean, I love me some sriracha, but
Hey, Dan, when we get off here, I'll show you how to download Tinder.
I'm 46 years old.
Because if she's doing that, then we need to move on here.
I'm closer. What's the old person dating service? I'm closer to that now.
Idea. There was some old age bachelor or something, so maybe that's for you.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the commercial, and I was thinking of the two old people sitting in the standalone tubs, but that was a Cialis commercial, not a dating service commercial.
Close enough.
I love they're here talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates.
So we talk about Paul, talk about Jared, talk about why Dan hates Bubba. One thing I thought was pleasant to see. Johan Oviedo. There's a lot of talk about him, right? He's going to be returning this year off Tommy John. There was some upside potential with him, having his first full season as a starter. I kind of like the projections. I mean, about a league average pitcher, which I think, again, coming off of Tommy John, what he was that's hopeful to expect. So yeah, some Johan Oviedo, pretty solid pitcher, I think, this year.
And ZiPS is aware of the Tommy John surgery, so it already kind of discounts him a little bit for it. So that's a plus. As I said, they have pretty good depth there. I mean, no one amazing. There's no one who's going to match up to the top three pitchers coming through the system this year, but there are a lot of guys that you wouldn't absolutely hate to see. Like, you wouldn't, if there was a scratch and they were called as the starter, you wouldn't turn around, drive into the game and go home instead.
So that's the one thing too. I guess as a whole, right? We're talking about the Pirates, very Olive Garden-esque, right? I get that. But I do want to say, when it comes to the pitching, I'm going to take Paul Skeens out because we know Paul Skeens is showtime. But you have your Mitch Kellers, you have your Jared Joneses, Thomas Harrington's actually a pretty solid projection too. Your Ashcraft. Now, here's something too, talking about Braxton Ashcraft. Kind of looking like the better pitcher of between the Harrington, even the Bubba Chandlers. So that to me felt pretty interesting. What is ZiPS seeing in Braxton Ashcraft?
Well, now I have to open it up. Is he related to Graham Ashcraft? And I think of it.
I don't think so. But now you're gonna make me look it up just to confirm.
I don't feel like they are, but
well, anyway, he's a control pitcher who can still get guys out. And in the high minors, you see a lot of control guys who have 7-8 strikeouts per game against minor leaguers. And when you're only doing that against minor leaguers, control pitchers are kind of dead. And he's not an Alex Hill. I'm not Alex Hill. I'm combining Alex Wood and Rich Hill into one super scrap.
There's a
super
combo.
gutty.
that would be a legit pitcher.
He's 65, still throwing 180 innings of 90 ERA plus ball.
A cross body 60-mile-an-hour curveball would be wild.
I mean, he's not that soft a tosser, but just generally speaking, his slider and his command are the better things about him. But he's striking out 9-10. I believe he approached 11 batters a game in the minors. And when you have a guy who knows where the strike zone is, and he does have some ability to get strike three, he knows how to finish off at bats, they do have a decent chance at surviving. Maybe not be a star, but again, as long as the top three are healthy, you're talking about fourth, fifth starters. And when you're talking about Ashcraft, you're talking about someone who's probably like the number 7 or 8 starter. And when you don't hate the number 8 starter, you're doing pretty well. Like the number 8 starter for the Chicago White Sox is probably Mark Burley.
Still.
Like now,
Right.
I mean, Will Venable's the manager, and I'm not really sure he's not one of the best 5 outfielders on the team. But I was about to call the Steelers. The Pirates do have some resilience against pitching injuries this year. Obviously, if you lose Skeens, that's going to be a pretty big deal but no one's going to replace Skeens. Anyone with Skeens who has him injured isn't going to replace him. But
the Dodgers.
Even the Dodgers could. I mean, even the Dodgers, yeah, they won the World Series, but it took a lot of juggling and cobbling together that rotation.
Their best pitcher was hurt all year. Shohei Ohtani had a blown out elbow.
And even if I liked Ortiz more than I did, I would totally have been in favor of the Horwitz. I'm still thinking of food. I still would have been in favor of the Horwitz trade simply because I think that it dealt something that the Pirates had a surplus of, so something that they needed. The flavor.
To
Flavor Town, baby.
Just keep it moving on the pitchers here. It seems to be relatively high on David Bednar based upon last year. Is there anything more to that, or is it just based on his prior career?
It's mostly just history.
Okay.
One of the things, if you look at his stats, they weren't as. Let me see how I put this. His walk rate spiked last year, but one of the things that didn't spike was his first strike percentage, and that's actually a really good leading indicator of future walk rate. Pitchers that get off to a lot of first strikes just fundamentally don't end up walking a lot of guys. He was right at his career average, but way above it in walks. That's a good thing. And his contact percentage did fall off, but it wasn't bad. It was still in the mid 70s. Yeah, last year was bad, but ZiPS does see a turnaround. And really, ZiPS isn't projecting him to get all the way back. It just thinks he's going to have a pretty good bounce back season.
Which is good. That's we're hoping to see as well. So he's been kind of polarizing in Pittsburgh. Is he deserving a spot? Is he going to be gone? I don't believe he's washed. Like you said, I think there's a lot of things that stand out that make you pretty confident that he can at least be like what ZiPS is saying. I don't know if he'll be all the way back. I think he has that potential, but yeah, I think there's a lot of things pointing out that David Bednar could still be a reliable and effective reliever.
And he did, and in his struggles, he didn't lose his velocity, because that's also another red flag. When your guy that's throwing 97 is all of a sudden throwing 94 and having trouble, you think, oh dear God, how is your forearm feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of that.
Yeah.
So the Dodgers.
So is everyone. Pitchers are a really if pitchers were a product, there would be a recall and class action lawsuits against whoever made pitchers. They're like 20-year-old Audis. Every pitcher is a 20-year-old Audi.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess that Dad did not buy an Audi.
No, I'm serious.
He sold it.
No, like if you see like an Audi that sold for $100,000 like in 2000 compared to like the Camry that sold for like 23 in 2000, the Camry now you actually costs more. The 20-year-old Camry costs a lot more than that 20-year-old Audi. That 20-year-old Audi you can probably buy for $4,000 because nobody wants to do Audi stuff to it.
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
We're talking about baseball.
Come on, man.
I just forgot which player we were comparing to a 20-year-old Audi. Oh, pitcher.
Technically,
we're talking about Bednar.
And the position of Pictures. But yeah, Bednar.
The
Yeah,
comparisons have been
pictures are bad.
great tonight.
Pictures are bad products.
So like a steak bagel.
I mean, if the steak bagel would occasionally just blow up, like
So a Cybertruck.
yeah, but imagine like, say you like a steak bagel, and there was like a 10% chance that someone was going to come up to you and just take it away from you halfway through eating. That's what a picture would be. A jerk who steals your breakfast.
But unfortunately, I only spent like $5 on that steak bagel. These guys are spending a lot more. They're buying a Wagyu and getting a steak bagel a lot of times.
So you're holding out. You had more than that $10 to contribute.
Yeah, I mean, I dabble.
There's some chicanery going on here.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then I go
Old
to Wendy's.
Dan's getting gaslighted.
I stop in the Wendy's
Gasoline?
every now and then. Arby's.
One
Get the
thing I
cheese
can promise you, the Pirates aren't getting Wagyu.
Look at Wendy's. I do like Wendy's.
So we're on the right path here, Tyler. It's that steak bagel.
Now we're getting the Walmart, like, American Wagyu.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Wendy's is the square burgers.
Oh, I love them. Baconator's awesome.
That's why I loved Wendy's as a kid, because they're just different. It's a square. I want it.
Jim
That was
also
good
brings up
marketing.
But see, when you're a kid, you feel like you're sophisticated when you're going to Wendy's. Like, ooh, we're going to Wendy's. They put
True.
tomatoes on their burger.
Man, and they got the Baconator fries. Like, those are good. And Wendy's figured out bacon.
What happened to Burger King had the spicy one, had the ghost pepper one with, and they had that black bun.
I have a tweet about that.
Oh, okay. Did you look?
Forgot
Was it
about
good was it good or bad?
Let's just say exiting me turned a different color.
Yeah, that was one thing that my cat at the time did not like. No, my cat loved Arby's. My cat loved Arby's more than anything, and he got all excited because he could smell Arby's, because we passed it every time we passed there after the vet, we'd go to Arby's and get something, and whoever was at the register would just look at me in just confusion, watching me just hand a sandwich to a cat, because he'd knock the bun off the sandwich and just eat the roast beef like in one big bite, like a pelican swallowing a fish.
If I can show Jim's comment here real quick. He asks who is the bacon of the Pirates, and if I can just shout out Jim or Dan's article here, it's Brian Reynolds, because Dan eloquently says he is a 2 to 3 win player. Stop yelling at me about it. That is bacon. It's always good. It's never the star of the show.
I don't know, because you can have bad bacon. Like, have you had a British person cook you bacon? They like it kind of chewy. They don't like it crispy.
Did you watch Brian Reynolds in 2020?
Okay, that's fair.
That was the English bacon year.
Okay, but the moral of the story is just don't yell at me about that. People are mad enough at me generally as it is. So let's try to reduce one thing that people are mad at me about.
Yeah, I didn't even bring up Brian Reynolds because we noticed that. We didn't even talk about Brian Reynolds because it's like, yeah, he's going to be Brian Reynolds once again. Let's move on.
Is there a slightly better word for, is it like when we talk about the word, when we say something's mid, is there kind of a tier above that has a one word thing? Like mid plus?
Solid.
Because meh is below mid.
I think solid is the word.
But I think you need something that's like one syllable.
Yeah, that's not the lingo, Tyler.
You have meh, you have mid, but what is like the difference between mid and meh? What's that difference above mid?
Captain Chris, this is for you. It's greasy.
That's 2 syllables.
It's greasy. This is where we're using Captain Chris. We found how we're using greasy. It's the tier above mid.
It might be one of the words the youths of today are using that I don't quite know. I'm still trying to figure out what drip is and riz and all that stuff.
I don't know what greasy means, other than like actual greasy.
It's a word that Chris made up. He wants to get a word just going that he just makes up that people are going to start using.
But greasy's a real word.
Nice little ball player. Oh God! Shout out to Jim. Jim called Nick York a nice little ball player one day, and it sounded so.
So demeaning.
Yes,
Yeah, he's a nice little ball player, as in he sucks.
but he didn't mean it that way. But
No,
yeah,
he
that's how-
didn't.
That's how. It
Yeah,
came
that
off.
nice little ball player is what like your elderly grandmother says when you've brought her to scout a player, and she says, "Oh, he's a nice little ball player."
Right.
It's Billy Cook. Everything Dan was saying earlier, that nice little ball player.
That's a
is
nice
Billy
little ball
Cook.
player. Yeah.
Yep. He exists.
But I don't know. I don't know what's another word for good other than I guess just good. But that's Brian Reynolds.
Yeah, good's probably the word, actually. The simple one.
It's everything you asked for. It's one syllable. It's
Yeah.
it's good. Good is the good of good.
Yeah. We didn't need to reinvent the wheel here.
Nope.
Well, at least it's lingo I'm aware of. So Brian Reynolds is good.
There it is.
And if he gets better, he's great. Also one syllable.
Well, we have very good between good and great. Although that's more
It's like
syllables.
3 syllables. A lot of work there.
Wait, is it cromulent?
That's like 18 syllables.
But it might be cromulent. If meh is used, then we can use another Simpsons word, cromulent.
I don't think anyone on TikTok's using that word.
I don't think the kids are using that these days.
Or will the kids saying
But-
good?
Maybe we're gonna kick it off.
I don't even think they're saying meh anymore because that aired like 25 years ago.
Basically, if we are using the word, they're not using it anymore.
Okay. That's fair. It's tough getting old.
So you know who's kind of mid, which is kind of a good thing? Bailey Falter.
Yeah, he's mid.
But I do want to bring him up because this is a guy that we had like no faith in, and Bailey Falter had a Bailey Falter year last year. And it was like, well, actually, it was pretty productive. Like I will take that from Bailey Falter any given day. But there's like also underlying metrics, like he's probably maybe not going to be that good. And ZiPS looks at him and says, you know what? You're going to be a 1.4 WAR player again, a 4.44 FIP. Like it's a solid starter again. So, what does ZiPS see in Bailey Falter that escapes all of us every single year?
Okay, well let's open this up and see the magic box.
Let's find out.
I'm not sure if I understand what ZiPS sees in him. I think ZiPS sees him as just kind of a generic lefty guy. But that's useful at times because again, Mark Pryor's been out of baseball now for like 15 years. But Rich Hill, he'll show up and give you 0.9 WAR and you'll be happy to have it.
There you go. I mean, he's the fourth highest pitcher as far as WAR goes on the team.
ZiPS has to be so confused looking at Bailey Falter. Like Dan already mentioned, they talk about the velocity a little, or they include velocity a little bit in there, and then you see the strikeout rate. Why? You probably broke ZiPS with Bailey Falter.
Yeah, I'm trying to dig into it to find a more satisfactory answer. Looking at it, ZiPS thinks some of his contact data at least supports. Sorry, that's my editor messaging me. Supports kind of a slightly less terrible strikeout rate. ZiPS actually thinks his contact rate deserves kind of like a 7 something strikeout rate instead of 6. That's something.
Okay.
But if he, as long as he can maintain good control and keep the ball down, he can probably last 25 years. He'll outlive us all.
So the Pirates maybe have found some little diamond in the rough here in Bailey Falter. We all hated the trade. Rodolfo Castro. Yeah.
I don't want to know what he's projected at.
We don't need to. We don't
No,
need
we're
to.
good.
But again, that was again something interesting. I could see Bailey Falter like, okay, that was like the one shining moment. That's the one big year he had, and he turns back, turns this pumpkin that we all expected him to be in. But ZiPS kind of has some faith in him. So, like Jim said here, if that's going to be your number 5 starter, like you'll take that every single day.
I mean, he wasn't that bad last year.
No, he
I mean,
wasn't, but we were expecting him to be.
Well, I will tell ZiPS that ZiPS is being too nice and to be crueler in the future.
Thank you very much.
It's so funny. Dan's getting yelled at now for being too nice. You can never win, Dan.
No, I'm aware of that. That's the one thing that you learn when doing projections is you will mostly hear when people are angry with you. No one ever writes you an excited instant message that says, I totally agree with ZiPS's projection for Max Kepler. You're cool. No one has ever written those words to me or any.
I'll do that
words.
next year for you.
I mean, I'm so shell shocked after doing this for 20 years that when someone calls me Mister, I'm like really suspicious of them. It's like, why are you being nice?
Actually, Jim does bring up a good point. We did this last year. We yelled at you about Palacios projections then.
Do you remember how we yelled? What was the I don't remember us talking about Palacios.
You probably did the same thing you did this year where you gave him a 1.5 and we're like, no, he stinks.
Yeah, I'm actually opening up last year's projections to get a look at this.
I'm assuming.
Memories of people being mad at Dan. Let's see.
Let's go down the list.
I don't even remember being mad about it, but sounds like me.
But probably. Yeah, he says he thinks you had him like a 1 WAR. And I could see that. We're probably like, Dan, you're dumb.
Yeah, well, who was that guy that he had like a 1.5 win? The dude that never played. What was his name? He was the first baseman, I think.
Last year? Seth Beer?
No, a couple years ago.
Oh.
He was from Seattle.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, well, anyway, I'm on Palacios. ZiPS had him at 0.8 WAR and about 400 plate appearances.
So there you go. Yeah, it was about 1 WAR.
I mean, like, yeah,
97.
Funny, even at that,
plus.
we were like, "That's terrible."
Yeah,
like it's not good. But yeah,
Kenny Capra.
Good man. I had Grandal at 1.5 WAR last year.
That probably was about accurate.
Yeah, is it 2?
Yeah. Sorry, now I'm looking at old projections. The
projections might have been pretty good last year.
Not for Hayes.
Yeah. Well, he fooled us all.
Right. So I guess one last person that I really want to talk about here is Kyle Nicholas. And you did kind of highlight it there as well. You did speak specifically like as a reliever. So I kind of want to talk about that to some more level because you have here as Kyle Nicholas basically being a 0.5 WAR pitcher, 4.54 FIP, but that's a mixture of starting and relieving. What is Kyle Nicholas as far as ZiPS goes as a strictly a reliever?
Oh, I can do that. I have those projections. Strictly as a reliever, ZiPS has him at 3.86, which is a significant improvement.
Right.
And I like Nicholas. He's interesting. And as I said, I will take interesting over pretty much anyone else. Give me a guy who has a live arm and doesn't know where the strike zone is. Sometimes people will find the strike zone. Usually people, unless they're Charlie Morton, won't suddenly start throwing 97 or something. And obviously he's not like
Do we have
that
to
crazy.
Did we have to go there?
But hey, that guy that was part of that is now part of the Pirates pitching coaches. So we can go there. Brent Strom's with the Pirates.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sitting there
Does ZiPS know that also, by the way? Does ZiPS know that he's with the Pirates? They factor that in?
No, ZiPS doesn't know how to do that.
You should tell him.
Yeah. Just make up the numbers like you normally do, Dan. Dang.
But that's cool. That's interesting. I know I've been hard on Kyle Nicholas. I don't know how much I really believe in him. There's certainly a live arm there. But I think, like there's going to be an X factor this year. Like it can be Kyle Nicholas.
Also, Dan, do you know where Kyle Nicholas is from?
North Pole.
He's from Ohio.
Okay,
Couple
well,
Ohio guys here.
well, I'm not voluntarily in Ohio. It's just where my family went, so I'm kind of living near them.
I thought we were gonna have a thing here where we just like celebrate Ohio State's victory.
Shut that
And
right down.
No, but you
It's
didn't
fine.
say the Ohio State.
I'm sorry. Like we are from the Ohio.
You have to say the Ohio State.
Well,
Oh God, when I was shopping for houses around here back in 2006, I guess it was, I saw this house. I didn't get it. That the entire paint inside was Ohio State colors. All the walls were red and gray, including the ceilings. Red ceilings.
sounds like us.
That's awful.
Yeah, it sounds like
But
us.
like I've absolutely gone past houses that were all black and gold. So I'm not saying I don't get it, but yeah.
See, I'm the opposite.
crazy.
I still have some rooms to paint that I had intended to. There's actually a kind of a line between the hallway and the living room where you can see where I stopped painting in 2007.
Wait, 2007?
2007.
That paint can now drive.
Yeah, that's almost 2
The
decades.
paint has a
now.
driver's license at this point.
No, I tend to I am not great at home upgrade stuff.
Clearly. That's funny.
He said he was painting. I'm like, he said 06 like 10 minutes ago.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm in the same boat. I get it.
Yeah, I have a shed in the backyard that I meant to replace the lock for also about 15 years ago. And so on a windy day, it just swings open like an abandoned shed in a documentary about the 1930s Dust Bowl.
I moved into this house 3 years ago and my kitchen's still yellow. That was going to be the first thing I did. It's been 3 years.
I still have some switches. I don't sure what they go to.
Same.
There's like this weird night,
The
like
extra switches.
on my like on my little patio out back, mounted to the house. There's like this thing that looks like a 1960s speaker, but it doesn't seem to connect to anything. And I've been kind of meaning for the last 17 years to kind of trace where that wire goes.
I still, you know what, Dan? I might have you beat here. I have the same key that was handed to me when I moved in. I didn't even change the locks. Someone could break into this house any day.
I still have the keys to my first car, a 1988 Ford Tempo. They're literally still sitting in addition to kitchen. I got rid of that car 21 years ago, which means I actually moved with the keys.
The car's been turned into like multiple other cars.
Yeah,
But it's actually like in the dish too. It's not just like tucked away somewhere, like, you know, for sentimental reasons. It's still actively there.
Yeah, it's not for sentimental reasons because it's a Ford Tempo. But I actually, at some point, I picked up the vase, the little glass jar. I put the glass jar in a box, individually packed, and I took it out and put it just back in the kitchen without changing anything about it. And the same thing happened with things like condiments when I moved. Like I remember finding I was eating really old mustard that had expired. Like this was like 2013. I discovered that the mustard I was eating expired in 2005, which means when I moved, I took 2-year-old mustard, I packed it, I shipped it. The movers had a box with expired mustard. I took it out of the box, I put it in the fridge, and I kept eating it.
That mustard might be older than some of the viewers tonight.
I did eventually get rid of the mustard. It would be useful if instead of a best by date on things, it told me like worst after.
That's why we have 5 senses. Smell it.
Ah.
No, I'm not with you because once it passes that expiration, it's out. I'm done. I'm one of those people.
Well, Dan, I'll tell you what.
Let it go.
That's how we segue that. We do have a question here in the chat, and I think this is kind of interesting. So maybe to ask your opinion, but also maybe on ZiPS a little bit here. But they want your take on the IKF for McAdoo trade. So I know McAdoo's with Toronto. I don't know if that helps you right now or whatever. But yeah, we kind of know IKF's limitations, you know what he is. I'm not sure if this is where he's going with this, but I'm kind of interested. Like, what's McAdoo's future look like?
Okay, well, let us open up that projection just so I can have it to reference.
Because he was loved. He was like a small part, like this little living legend amongst Pirates fans. So yeah, when he was traded, there was a lot of people that are kind of like, oh, you know, kind of like Charles McAdoo.
Let's just say that Charles McAdoo has a higher projection this year than Kiner Falefa does.
All right, now you can go. I was not expecting that. That's like, no, you're out of here, Dan. We're done. You ruined my night.
242, 307 on base percentage, 393 slugging percentage. Sorry.
So already he's projecting better than IKF. This is fantastic.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, IKF is kind of like the baseline guy that, like the basic qualifier, like a chef at a restaurant who washes their hands after going to the bathroom. Kiner Falefa is washing your hands after you pee. It's like the very basic thing you can do, but you can't really brag that you did it. You can't go like, well, I washed my hands after I peed. And someone says like, yeah, do you normally not? And then you say no, because we're the Pirates and we signed Pat Mears to a long-term deal for some reason.
It's the guy that uses his mustard by the best use by date.
Don't you love being insulted by a guy that was eating mustard that was 6 years beyond expired?
But you see, that was just negligence.
So are the Pirates.
He hasn't finished painting his wall since the Bush administration.
Right.
And I'm not going to. There's no chance.
That's a great point.
I mean, I have like 3 socket wrench sets because that's having 3 socket wrench sets means I know on average where one is when I need one. I'm kind of terrible at everything in life except for my job.
How often do you shovel your driveway?
Oh, well, I try not to at all.
All right. That was the answer I wanted.
I mean, my Mazda has pretty good all-wheel drive, and it can pretty much just go through everything. Really, up until like it goes above like the bottom of the car, and then I probably would just make an excuse not to go out.
No, you just go on Carvana and get a bigger vehicle.
See that's one of the privileges of working from home is that I don't really care about the snow. And I don't want to have to dig it. Although my mom will call me and she'll want me to come over and dig out her driveway. I'm like, Mom, you're not going anywhere. You're 70 and have no hobbies.
Same.
You're 70? You look good.
Basically.
Yeah, he's 72.
I act like it.
Oh God. Well, but I'm still pissed. I had to shovel the driveway last week. Because I was driving home from Baltimore to Dayton, because I'm back and forth between Baltimore and Ohio quite a lot. And so I had to first dig my car out of this. It was only 4 inches of snow in Baltimore, but when the snow, it was parallel parked on a street, and you know that when the snow plows come, they kind of put that like berm next to your car, which you kind of had to do something about. So I had to shovel to get it out. I drove through the snow, and then we had about 9 inches at the house. So I kind of had to get a little into the driveway. I got home at 10:45, and there's a message from my mom, like, if you get home before midnight, can you come shovel my driveway? And I didn't, and I was kind of annoyed by that, but shoveling is the worst. I didn't like shoveling, and now that I'm, middle-aged, overweight, have a bad back, I don't really want to shovel ever. I like snow, but I don't want to have to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And that's the dream.
Let's
To have problems in life and just say, that is something I'm not going to do.
Well, so that's why I suggest you to come down to Florida, but never mind now.
I don't like the humidity. I do like the cold.
Oh, well, you won't like it here then.
No, it sucks.
And sorry, Arizona spring trainings are always better than Florida ones.
I mean, I can get that. I can
Never
get that
been.
because of the humidity.
And Arizona ones are more centrally located.
And actually that part too.
In
You can really go
Florida,
to any game.
yeah, Florida spring training, you get to go through every weird, dodgy road in Florida.
Yep.
Because one thing I've discovered, I mean, I'm not a Florida expert, but it seems like different parts of the state aren't like really connected all that well with other parts of the state.
Mm-mm.
Like they're floating islands, and like the only way to get from here to here, if you want to get to Clearwater, you have to go over that one lane bridge over a gully from an Indiana Jones movie.
And especially that time of the year, it's 5 miles and it's going to take you an hour and 15 minutes.
You people are crazy down there.
But either way, Dan, well, I should say Tyler, do you have anything else that you want to ask?
No, I think we're good tonight. I think I've nailed out every single restaurant recommendation I have.
There it is. But Dan,
we
yeah,
haven't-
as
we
always,
haven't even talked chicken.
Oh, well,
Next time.
2026.
we'll make that note. 2026 is the year of the chicken.
Because like I have thoughts on Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A. We got conversation to have.
I'm ready. So 2026, next year, Dan, we're talking about Bubba Chandler and why you were so wrong in him this year. We'll also talk about chicken. But no, again, as always, really, really appreciate you coming on, giving this insight on the ZiPS projections and such, and just talking some baseball and some food.
Well,
So I know you haven't ate. You can go ahead and do so now.
okay.
It's
Well,
11:15.
thanks for having me, guys. Anytime. Sorry that I talked a lot about things that weren't baseball.
That's why you're the best.
Hey, anytime other than 9 o'clock exactly.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
9:25.
well, see, I spared you guys 20 more minutes of talking with me.
There it is. There.
We just added 20 more on.
But
Okay,
yeah,
have a good one,
awesome.
guys.
Awesome times. Thanks, Dan. We'll see you guys. We'll see you later.
Appreciate you.
See ya.
Appreciate it. For everyone else, we appreciate you guys watching, tuning in. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.